All right, so case study number one is termination of parental rights. So Lisa is a 3-year-old child. She was removed from her parents' care due to neglect and exposure to substance abuse. She has been in foster care for 18 months now under a court order. Her biological mother has made no contact, and her father is in prison. The foster parents now want to adopt Nolutando, but the Children's Court has not yet terminated the parental rights and responsibilities of Lisa's biological parents. Okay, do we get that scenario?
Yep, all good.
All right, questions, 3 questions. Firstly, and you guys can each take up one question. Oh, wait, let me split it that way. All right, so Jackie, you will do question one.
Mm-hmm.
What legal
Okay.
steps must be taken before the foster parents can adopt Nolutando?
Okay. Are you gonna ask all three or just ask me?
That's your question. And then Molefi is going to do
Okay.
question number 2. Molefi, your question is, what does the Children's Act say about termination of parental rights and responsibilities? And then Shakir, your question is, what role should the social worker play in this matter, both ethically and procedurally? All right, do we have that?
Yep.
Okay, Molefi, you've got it?
Repeat it once more.
Do you want me to repeat the question or the entire scenario?
Yes, the question once more.
All right, the question is, what does the Children's Act say about termination of parental rights and responsibilities?
Okay, sure.
All right. Shakira, did you get your question? That's probably he's driving and the network is quite bad.
No,
Yeah, I know
I
he
hear
is.
you, but I didn't get the question.
All right,
Uh,
did you get the case study, the scenario?
yeah, the guy wants to disown his parents.
Yeah, yeah, in a nutshell, yes.
Nutshell.
Okay, so my question for you is, what role does the social worker
What role does the social worker play?
Yes,
It's
ethically and procedurally?
okay.
All right, so you guys can discuss amongst each other and then let's meet in 15 minutes. No,
Okay.
is 15 minutes too long or is it fine?
Should we not just discuss with you, like answer our questions and discuss questions as we answer them?
I guess you can do that, yeah.
That's probably just easier because we're kind of
Okay,
going to
let's
talk to
do
each other and then we're
that.
going to talk to each other.
Okay, cool, let's do that. Jackie, what legal
Yeah.
steps? Don't you guys
Before
need
a
some
child can
time
be
to
adopted,
find the answers?
uh, I've got the Children's Act open in front of me.
Okay. I'm sure everyone's rushing to ChatGPT as well right now.
That's mine, and I'm driving.
No, please, here you cannot be asking chat now while you're driving. Let's not do that. All right. But I think I should give you guys at least maybe just 3 or 4 minutes just to find the answers so we can have a
Okay.
conversation. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let's make it 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Okay.
Are we still here?
I'm still here. We're just busy looking at the Children's Act to just get the answers.
Okay.
Yes, you've got 3 minutes left.
The Children's Act is on the WhatsApp group, just by the way, if you're kind of wondering where we're getting it from. The document is on the WhatsApp group.
Okay. So the question 2 was the role of the caregiver. Are you guys with me?
Hello?
The role of not caregiver, the role of the social worker.
Yes, Shakir, that's your question.
Yes.
All right.
So firstly, must I answer or must we wait?
Just wait. I'm just waiting for the other two. I've gave 5 minutes for everyone to just find the answers quickly. Can you hear me, Shakir?
I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna start with question number 1, which is Jackie's question, and then we'll come to you just now. All right, Jackie, are you ready?
I am. Can you just repeat the question just so I make sure I'm understanding the right one, answering the
Alright,
right
so-
one?
No, that's fine. The question is, what legal steps must be taken before the foster parents can adopt Nolutando?
Okay, well, for a child to be adoptable, the child either has to be an orphan or the parents' whereabouts need to be unknown. They've either been abandoned or the parent has abused or deliberately neglected the child, or the child is in need of permanent alternative placement. So the social worker would need to determine if any of those are true. The fact that she's had no visitations for I can't even remember, 18 months, I think is good grounds. However, the parents would need to be found and would need to sign off the child or would need to be informed of their rights, that this child was now going to be adopted, and the court would have to then decide to terminate the parental rights in order for the child to be adoptable. And they can do that if they believe it's in the child's best interest, or if the parents can't be found and therefore the child then becomes adoptable. They would probably need to, if they can't find the parents, they would need to advertise before the parents and give them 90 days to respond to an advert.
Okay. All right. So
And
remember
at the end of that, then the child is then abandoned.
Okay, so remember we said in the case study, we said that the mother has made no contact and the father is in prison. So how would you navigate
Yes.
that?
Well, firstly, try to make contact with the mother. So you would try and reach out with the mother. And if the mother is there, then that there would need to be counseling and an assessment done, a report done on the stay to the mother. I'm not entirely sure about the father. Like, he would need to be informed, but I think the courts could decide if he's had no connection with the child at all and he's sitting in prison. I think the courts could then determine he's an unfit father. That would be my guess. But he
Okay.
would need to be informed, I
All
think.
right. So let me ask you this way. I'm trying to find the right way to ask this now. What does termination, cause, sorry, this topic is on
Bless you.
termination. All right, thank you.
Yes.
The
Yes.
termination of parental rights. So what does that mean? What are the consequences and what is the meaning of terminating parental rights and responsibilities?
It means that they would no longer have any rights to the child at all. So either they would sign the document once they have been counseled, revoking their own rights to the child, or the court would deem them unfit parents or non-present parents if it's a case of abandonment and they don't know where they are. So either on a case of neglect and abuse or on the case of abandonment, the court would then decide that they are not fit to be parents, and terminate their rights means they have no more rights to the child. Like, it's over, done.
Okay, and does the court do this? Or because I think you mentioned something the parents can do an agreement.
Termination of rights would have to be done by the court, by a
All right.
magistrate. Like, they'd have to sign in front of a magistrate if they're signing themselves. If they're not signing themselves, the magistrate would need to make that call.
Yes.
As to whether, and that call is then based on the reports of the social workers.
Yes, perfect. So what would happen then is you'd need to prove first and foremost the best interest of the child. So if the father's in prison, the parents do not always have to be contacted. There are many instances where parents are not contactable. For example, in this case scenario, we said the mother is not in contact with the child. So what would happen then is the social worker would come in and do a report on the child, and you'd either approach the children's court or the high court. And then
Sorry,
they
can I push back on that a little bit? Surely, if they know the whereabouts of the parent, they have to contact the parent. I mean, it's up to the parent if they respond, but surely if they know the whereabouts, the parent needs to at least be informed. I mean, when they don't know the whereabouts, you have to limit advertise for the parents. So surely if they have a number, even if the mother hasn't been in contact, you have to still contact the mother.
Yes, definitely. Because remember in the last session that we did, we said that as much as the children has rights and privileges, the parents also have rights and privileges. And one of those rights is to be informed of the process. So in instances where the parents cannot be contactable or traced at all, and the social worker would need to prove this in their report, and it needs to be shown to the court the different methods or efforts that were made in trying to contact the parents. And if they cannot be contactable, and then the children's court can terminate their rights and responsibilities based on that application without the parents' involvement. But obviously, if the parents are contactable, they need to be made aware and they need to be given an opportunity to oppose the matter and to have their say in court. All right. And then what happens once the rights are terminated? What can the foster parents then do?
The foster parents can then apply to adopt the child. Question. So, and this is an experiential question. I was told in the case of one of my children where the parents came to court to sign her off. They're saying they wanted to terminate their rights. They didn't want it, right? I was told that they were not allowed to do that if there was not someone willing to step in and adopt the child. Like, is that a thing? Because that's what I was told. And I had to agree in front of the magistrate that we would pursue adopting this child so that the parents could sign the child off. Like, what's the deal there?
Well, I think there needs to be some sort of guardian that is willing to take over the child. And that's because I don't think the court would, because if the court, as soon as the court extinguishes a parent's rights and responsibilities to the child, they have absolutely no say over the child. And so there has to be someone that steps
Yes.
in to that role. So it would either be a
Okay.
foster parent or, someone from a home or something that can provide.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody has to definitely
So,
step.
yeah, so I mean, it wasn't even that we were prepared to foster her; we had to be prepared to adopt her.
Oh, that's
So it
interesting,
was
actually.
interesting because, yeah, they wouldn't let because we got sort of out of the blue because we were still just a place of safety, and they said, look, we can't allow them to. We've got this massive problem because they're here and now they want to sign her off, and we don't know what to do. Are you prepared to adopt this child? And we were like, oh, this wasn't this kind of party, but okay, yes, we'll adopt the
That's
child.
actually, that's actually
So
quite interesting.
yeah.
Because I think that's a bit intense, adoption particularly. I know foster parents can do it, but I'm gonna have to see. I'm gonna have to see
Yeah,
if,
sorry.
yeah, thank you for
Interest-
the question, actually. I'll have to take a look, then I'll post the answer in the group once I've got it.
Cool
As
beans.
to whether the child needs to be placed with someone to adopt. But I think maybe that was just that specific magistrate or that specific court that required.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Right. So
Um,
what's the
anyway,
relevant
yeah, cool.
what's the relevant section in the Children's Act in terms of parental rights and
Uh,
responsibility?
Oh, I was looking at it. It is, well, the adoptableness is chapter 15. I can't find it now. Hang on.
Okay, no, fine, because
The
that
parental
well, if
rights is
answer that
chapter
one.
4, I think.
All right, no, that's fine. Well, if you can answer that, because he's gonna do the Children's Act. Um,
Yay, bye.
okay, cool. Okay. Well, Effie, your
Hello.
question is,
Yeah.
what does the Children's Act say about termination of parental rights and responsibilities?
Okay. And now, thank you so very much. I think first and foremost, the Section 28 of the Children's Act is mainly looking at the best interest of the children, because when we have to deal with the issue of termination, the children from their parents, one have to look at the emotional aspect of it, the legality and social aspect as well. So then what can happen is the court can order that a child can be separated or can be termination can be effected since in the scenario that we have been given that the father is now in prison, he cannot be, and the mother he cannot be found, and now the person who's now really in charge or responsible for this child after this 18 months that it has been together, they can go to court and make an application to request that they want to adopt the child because of the emotional being, the bond that they have already had. And that can be pursued through the legal way. Maybe they can even get the family lawyer or advocate or a social worker to assist them to go through with the whole process. And and also they have to look at the social aspect that when this child is growing, they must make sure that they take care of the child, and the environment in which the child is going to grow in is one of the other things that one have to look at. I'm not sure as whether I've tried to summarize in terms of my understanding.
Yes, no, that was brilliant. Thank you so much. I think it's very important that to understand that firstly, it's very difficult to terminate parental rights and responsibilities in courts. Okay, the court takes that very serious. So you do really need to explain the circumstances very clearly to the court. And I like how you mentioned our Section 28 provides the type of, so to speak, this type of evidence that needs to be shown in court. So it could be where the parent fails to fulfill their responsibilities, like you said. If the father's in prison, the mother has no contact. That's one aspect. If you have an absent parent, then in that case, their rights and responsibilities can be terminated. But it needs to go further than that. And I'm not sure whether this is in the act, but it does state that not only so responsibilities doesn't only have to be contact, all right? So it doesn't mean that the parent has to always be there, but even if they financially, let's say they send maintenance, for example, 1,000 rand a month for the child, in that instance, the court would be very reluctant to remove parental rights and responsibilities. So there needs to be some type of a connection between the child and the parent in order to enforce or to keep these rights and responsibilities alive, so to speak.
Yes.
So you would need to prove to the court that the parent is honestly just completely not there at all.
Mm.
And that's and that you would do through a social worker's report, who will then investigate, try and find the parents, and also establish the living conditions of the child. What in terms of best interest of the child, what does the Children's Act say there?
In terms of the
Best interest of the child.
I think what the act could I don't know how I don't know how to put it, but I
All right,
think
let me say, let's move away from the act just for now. You individually, what would you determine would be the best interest of the child? Or what
the
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 interest?
best interest of the child is number one, the kind of parents that they want to adopt, that they need to be well examined or interviewed. The environment that the child is going to be brought in, it also needs to be looked at, so that we know the child cannot find themselves in a abusive situation that might happen by these parents, if ever maybe they won't be able to take care of him or to take care of her. At the end of the day, their child will never get exactly what we will be expecting from this so-called parents that they want to adopt. I think maybe I've managed to answer it.
All right, yes. So let me ask this a bit differently. If you were the judge in that court, or if you were the magistrate in the children's court, and this application was brought to you, what would you determine would be the best interest of the child? So what would you look for that the child would need before making your decision to terminate the rights or not?
The socio-economic part of it, like whether these people will be able to take care of the child. They'll be able to provide for all those basic needs. And
Okay.
then these parents are not exactly need to be more educated, but are they literate, so that they can be able to assist their child as and when it is needed. And and what else? The issue of the food comes in, the clothing, school, education is very important as well for this child. Will these parents be able to provide that? Once they can be able to provide that, maybe as a judge, I would say, because their father is in prison, and maybe I don't know the circumstances of the child of the father, why he's been jailed and when he's gonna be released, and we are not even aware of the issue of the mother, as whether we'll be able to locate and get a mother. So I won't give permanent custody. I'll give a temporal custody to these parents while I'm still looking on those aspects and evaluate them, and to check as whether they'll be able to provide for this child hand in hand with the social worker that will take care of the child through the visitation and so on.
Okay, so let's take it now one step further. What if the father, although he's in prison, what if he still communicates with the child? Maybe through a weekly phone call,
If
or
the
I don't
father's
know, cell
communicating with
phone.
the child, that simply means that he's giving the child a support, emotional support, even though we won't be able to provide financially. So as a result of that, I cannot terminate the rights of of this father
Brilliant.
completely. I would rather say you guardians. I would say I'll consider these people as guardians to take care of the child, and whereas and I won't terminate. No, I won't terminate because their father is there and will come back, and they both are still having a communication and a bond telephonically. I won't terminate it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You answered that brilliantly. So there are different interests.
Pedro,
Yes,
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I think the Bluetooth was faulty there. Anyway, best interest of the child. That's a very good statement, right? And
Mm.
I, by and large, agree with it. However, when you're looking at the best interest of a child and you want to place the child, not all normal families have the best that you're gonna find. For example, you find a normal, functioning, good, healthy family where the father is a bit aggressive or the mother is a bit aggressive. So when you are placing the child for adoption or whatever it may be, do you also have to take that into consideration? Or will a person now lose their qualification to adopt the child just because they come across as slightly aggressive? I don't know if you
Yeah.
understand my question.
No, I understand the question completely. And that's the very interesting about the very interesting thing about the best interest of the child, because it's actually very nuanced. When we speak about best interest of the child, it sounds very fluffy to us, but when you actually need to apply it, in such an application of terminating rights and responsibility, it gets much, much nuanced and much more complex than that. And the best interest of the child scales a lot of things. So it's not only, for example, it's a wide range. It's safety of the child, the development of the child, the emotional attachment, which is what Molefi mentioned when he said if the father's still communicating with the child and there's an emotional attachment still there, it would then not be in the best interest of the child to cut off that type of emotional attachment. Um, if the parent is aggressive, there are other ways of addressing the matter, but then I would say that applying to have the rights and termination of the parent removed would be perhaps a bit extreme, unless if, like we mentioned, there's abuse or if there's neglect arising from the aggression of the dad, and then I would say that would be a viable option to consider termination. But it's important for us to understand the best interest of the child is a whole scope of things, and we need to look at what the child needs. And this is what we come across a lot in courts, because we have parents and foster parents, they're always fighting with each other. There's always a war zone there, and people tend to forget about the kids. And that is the court's sole responsibility. They are the upper guardian of the kids, the courts, and they will then decide what are the best interests of the child. Okay, and that could be
Okay, and so
a
the
bunch of.
best interest of the child is not necessarily what the child wants. I'm busy with a case, currently busy with a case where, what you call it, custody battle, where the father doesn't want to give the mother full custody because every time the child is supposed to go to the mother, then the child throws a performance and she cries and whatever. And so it's obviously now, according to the father's point of view, it's heartbreaking, but that's not
Yeah.
necessarily the best interest of the child.
What would you say is not the best interest of the child?
That the child is crying to be with the father because the father could be spoiling the child and the child just want to be where the mother where they get fed the best, so to say.
Yeah, but then in that circumstance, you would need to get a social worker, and the social worker would then need to do a report. to look
100%.
at the child's behavior and indicate why is the child scared to go and see his mother. And they'll have an interview with the child. And from there, they'll determine whether it's just because he prefers the one parent over the other or anything like that. And then the social worker will give their recommendations there. But in that instance as well, it would be the best option, I would say, is to reach some type of a care and contact agreement where both parents still be able to see the child, which I think would be important, even if it's under perhaps a supervised environment, but that you would need to look at the facts of the matter and what the interests of the child are. So, like you mentioned, when I say interest of the child, is not necessarily what the child wants. The interest of the child is
Yes.
much deeper than that. It goes to the health of the child. Is the child healthy in that environment? Is the child stable in that environment? Is the child developing well in that environment? And also, what attachment, and attachment is very important as well. What attachment does the child have towards one or both of the parents? And that is what the courts would use to consider. Are we on the same page?
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. And then that brings me to you, Shakira. You can then answer the third question. What would the role be of the social worker in this process, ethically and procedurally?
So I'm going to use at the back of my head. I did skim through something, but I'm just going to use the back of my head, right?
Yes.
Obviously, the social worker is going to ask why. Why is it that you want to leave your parents and get to the bottom of it, right? Having understood that now it's better for the child to leave the parents, the social worker will now give support, aid the child through proper foster care or proper home. All these things that will keep the child safe in this transition of being parentless.
Okay.
I know that's just like a rough answer, but yeah.
All
Can I
right.
also
Yes.
come in?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I was saying, can I also come in with regard to the scenario that we had? I think the role of the social worker in this case is to take through the process by, number one, looking at these parents that they want to adopt the child and have a full history of the family, check the surroundings, do interviews maybe with the neighbors on what kind of parents are they and so on. And they have to, the social worker will also have to do his or her own assessment in that regard. Number two, what is important is the social worker to prepare a child, to make sure that the child emotions are taken care of by making him or her aware that you're going to be headed over to this family. This family is going to take care of you. Since ever we are not aware where your mother is, and we've been staying with this family for about 18 months, and now that they want to adopt you accordingly and give you, like they are doing now, a full proper love as their own child. I think maybe that is the role. And another one that the social worker has to do is to come up with a comprehensive report and go to the court of law to try to make an application to assist this family if ever the family does not have a lawyer to take the whole process. But social worker role is to ensure that the family and the child are being taken care of in the process of going to the court and making the application and liaising with the parents. And yeah, I think in this scenario, this is the role of the social worker. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. Any other comments on the role of the social worker?
I'm good for now.
Okay, perfect. But just remember, most important thing, the social worker is a creature of statute. He or she only follows the Children's Act and the legislation. They follow it to the scripture. And a social worker does reports for basically everything. Okay, that is basically the sum of it. So whenever I ask you, what does a social worker do? The first thing that comes to your mind must be investigate and do a report. That's standard for every social worker. Now I'm going to give you guys one more case study, and this one's a very juicy one. And I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes, and we're going to do the questions and answers again. This one is a bit complicated, but I think it's worthy of engagement because there's a lot of nuances here. All right. So this is the case study. Lorato is a 26-year-old mother. She arrives at a government hospital in Cape Town and she's in premature labor. Her baby is born, but the baby is underweight and showing signs of neonatal withdrawal. The hospital staff investigate and they suspect that Lorato, the mother, was using meth or tick during the pregnancy. Lorato has no stable income. She has no family support, and she's living with different friends every week. A hospital social worker interviews her and finds out that she's ambivalent about keeping the baby. Sometimes she says she wants to get clean and be a better mom, and at other times she says that she can't handle the responsibility. So what happens then is the neonatal unit alerts Child Protection Services. It's important to note that there's no evidence of physical abuse, but there is a concern for the baby's future care and safety. All right, do we have that? Do we have that case study?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, but how is there going to be evidence of physical abuse when the child was just born?
No, there's no.
There's no evidence of the
No
physical.
evidence.
The child was just born, but the child was born with neonatal symptoms, withdrawal symptoms,
Yes.
because the mother was using drugs. Okay, so question is, and the first question will go to Jackie again. The question is, can the social worker legally recommend removing the baby from the mother's care at this stage? And if so, under what section of the law? Question number 2 will be Molefi. And Molefi, your question is, what is the process that must be followed? Oh, no, wait, I'm going to give you a more complicated one. How should the social worker ethically balance Lorato's parental rights and her expressed wish to improve against the risk to the newborn child? That is your question there. And then Shakir, your question is, what are the short-term and long-term interventions that the social worker can explore to protect the child, and not only to protect the child, but also to support the mother? All right, do we have our questions?
Awesome.
No, please repeat mine again.
Oh, sorry, Jackie, your question is, can the social worker legally recommend removing the baby from the mother's care at this stage? And if so, how or under what section of the law?
My question
Okay.
once more.
Thank you.
Molefi, your question is, how should the social worker ethically balance Lorato being the parent, parental rights, and her expressed wish to improve against the risk to the newborn child?
Okay.
Okay, and then Shakir, just to repeat your question, what are some short and long-term interventions that the social worker can explore, not only to protect the child, but also to support the mother? All right, I'm giving you guys 5 minutes. I'm going to go make myself another cup of tea, and then we'll be back. You guys
It's
are
still
welcome to discuss this amongst yourselves as well.
it's still daylight in Portugal. Oh no, you're not in Portugal.
I wish I was in Portugal, but unfortunately not. They're having
I'm
very
not
hot.
sure you do. It's like 5 degrees or something stupid.
Yeah, they're very close to hell right now. It's very hot there.
Yes.
They're preparing for all the bombing that's about to come for World War III. Okay, let
That
me
is
go.
terrible. Terrible.
All right, are we winning?
Getting there.
Okay, I'll give you guys 1 more minute.
Pedro?
Yes, are we ready?
Yeah, can I answer? I'm almost at the funeral. Can I
Oh, yes.
answer? Then you can correct me if I'm right or wrong.
Okay, you can go first. That's fine.
Okay.
What was the question again? Let me just quickly check.
Long-term,
Yes, what
short-term
yeah,
interventions.
yes.
So short-term intervention would be rehab for the mother. The rehab also afterwards, the what you call it, monitoring it. That would be a long-term thing. The mother must have like a 1 year medal, 2 year medal, etc., etc.,
Okay.
and constant report back and feedback uh, to the social worker. So the social worker will also go in and check what caused her to go on drugs. Maybe she was through a whole dilemma herself, and that is how she ended up on drugs. Sometimes it's choice, sometimes they pull towards it, although it's not correct, but yeah. So the entire history of how she went onto it, where it started, all of those things need to be taken into consideration.
All
Uh,
right.
so therapy for the mother, that will come with the rehab, I guess. And yeah, just keep monitoring, long-term monitoring and short-term rehab. Does it make
Okay.
sense?
It does. What about contact between the child and the mother?
Uh, Conditional. That means we're going to see, because now you already have affected the child, we're going to keep the child till you go and sort yourself out.
Okay.
Is that allowed though?
Yeah, well, you would, as a social worker, you would be the one that should make the recommendations.
Okay.
So would you recommend that?
I would actually recommend it because the child has to go through a whole lot of other treatment itself. I mean,
Mm.
the rehab for a child that's coming out of this drug situation is it's bad. One of the worst things I've seen in my life.
Okay, so now the tricky part is Lorato, the mother, one day she says she can change and she wants to do the best for the child. Other day she says she can't.
That is
What?
why that is why I suggested the monitoring. You need to report, you need to do checks. So the one rehab that we visited, they have weekly visits and random checks. So at any time they just go and while you in your meeting, like the AA meetings, while you're in your meeting, they call you out, you go to the toilet, they check you out.
Okay.
It means drug test.
Okay. Let me just quickly go through my notes, yeah. Yeah, but you covered it quite well. So you'd refer it to abuse, a substance abuse treatment. You would assess the mother and the child. Um, what about the child and the child's drug withdrawal symptoms?
That's what I was talking about. The child has to go through a whole treatment itself, the drug withdrawal and recovery.
Okay.
I remember seeing a video of a child whose mother was on cocaine, and it's absolutely terrifying. You know,
Yeah.
it's bad. So while the child is in recovery, the mother should go and try and recover herself. Otherwise, sorry,
Okay, but now my question to you is, I'm sorry, I'm taking your time now because you
no
need
problem.
to go.
No problem.
My question is, because now, what happens? How would you navigate contact between the mother and the child, considering that the mother abuses drugs?
It must be supervised.
Supervised
So
by
while the
whom?
mother is in rehab, supervised by whoever is in charge of the rehab. For example, if she is in rehab, uh, the social worker would arrange for the child to be brought, the mother to give the kangaroo care or breastfed.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
because they could still be in the blood.
Does anybody else have any other interventions that maybe Shakira didn't mention?
I think there should be a time limit. So you have a year to get yourself straight, or at least so that we can see that there's been progress. Because what I think some moms will do is they won't really get care, but they'll keep telling you that, oh, I will get care, but they never do. And then the child just remains in limbo for forever. And suddenly you have a 15-year-old child who should have been able to be adopted when they were babies. And so I think there does need to be a time frame attached to that. And that needs to be clearly communicated to the mother of kind of like, okay, we're giving you 2 years to give your life in order, or at least make good strides in that direction. I mean, we understand it's not a perfect science, but if in 2 years we can see that absolutely no progress has been made, we will be advising that your rights as a parent be terminated, something like that.
Okay. Okay, I like that. Do you think there would be grounds to terminate your rights?
Do I think there'd be grounds?
Yes. Would there be grounds to terminate your rights and responsibilities in this instance?
Not at this stage. I think she should be given an opportunity to fight for the child. However, if she, as I say, when the foster care order lapses the first time round, if she has not made use of that opportunity, I think then there are grounds to terminate her rights.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. That covers that question. Thank you so much, Shakira.
Thank you. I'm gonna go off now. Thank you,
Sure,
guys.
no problem.
Enjoy
Thanks.
the rest of
And
your
then
day.
Jackie,
Cheers, Shakir. Go well.
we're nearly just wrapping up now as well. Jackie, your question was, can the social worker recommend removing the baby from the mother's care? And under what law? And how would it work, basically?
So yes. So under Section 9 of a care in need of care and a child in need of care and protection, I think the social worker would be in full rights to be able to say, this mother is not fit to be a mother, and she is ambivalent towards the child, and she has exposed the child to danger and to harm, and therefore we think that this is a child in need of care and protection. So I think she does have the rights to recommend the removal of the child. I'm just
This
having.
removal should be done with or without a court order?
Since the child is in hospital currently, I think that the social worker has the time to go and get a court order, because the child is currently in the care of the hospital. So I think there is time for the social worker to go to the court. If the child was going to be discharged or anything like that, I would then remove the child immediately, but obviously then go to the courts within 24 hours.
Okay. So what indicators would you look for there in determining whether the child should be removed with or without a court order? Basically,
It's the immediate danger of the child.
Okay.
So if the child is in immediate danger, you then remove without a court order. However, if the child is in some form of safety and there's time to go and get a court order, you can get a court order.
All right, perfect. And then what risks are actually affecting the child? Leafy's question.
She currently doesn't have any visible means of support. She doesn't have a job. She doesn't have any way to currently care for the child. She also doesn't have any permanent living space. She is clearly addicted to a dependence-producing substance of some sort, and she hasn't got support to get treatment, and hasn't committed to any treatment at that point. And therefore, the child has already been exposed to circumstances which have seriously harmed the child's physical and everything else well-being.
So would you not consider it
yeah.
urgent then to remove the child to temporary care if the child, because the child now has been exposed to drugs basically in the uterus.
Yes.
And
But the
with that
child's in the hospital.
Yeah.
So because the child's in the hospital, they are currently in a safe place. So it would be an immediate removal, but it would be a court.
Oh.
I would get a court order to remove the child rather than just. I mean, is
Okay.
that possible? I mean, how long does it take to get a court order?
It takes long.
Oh,
Takes long.
no, if it takes long, then you remove, then you do an emergency removal. If it's going to take long, then you do an emergency removal and then you go to the court and say, we have removed this child. Yeah, there's issues with it, hey? So just on a practical level, and I've seen it over and over, is that children like that are then just left in the hospital. And they don't place them in places of safety. And I mean, I've been in the pediatric wards with these children who've been there for months. And the hospitals deny it till they die, but and they are so badly treated. And these children are completely fine, but the social workers simply haven't put them in a place of safety because they're in the hospital. It's horrible. It drives me mad.
Are those parents that have just left them there?
Either parents who've just left them there or they've been deemed unfit. And so the social worker has removed them, but because they were in the hospital, they've just been left in the hospital. And the social worker hasn't bothered, I don't know the correct word, to find them alternative care because, well, they're safe, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
And so these children sit for months in the hospital. I've seen it.
Yeah. Okay. Molefi, do you have any comments there before we get to your question?
Oh, no.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Jackie. Just a quick
Praveen?
hard one for you. What section of the Children's Act, if you remember, it deals with the removal of a child without a court order?
Section 9.
Mm,
Is it
not
not?
really. Is it?
Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. We're all right. There's no wrong answers. Just to put you at
Oh,
ease.
lies. Lies. If
All
you get
winners,
the wrong
yeah.
chapter, it is a wrong answer.
But there is a section that deals specifically with it that provides the circumstances of which you remove a child without a court order. And that's
I think
I'm
section
sure it's in
28.
Section 9.
no,
Isn't
not
it section 28 of the Children's Act?
nearly, but no. You're warmer though. You're much warmer. It's section 151, subsection,
Okay.
and that provides the
And
specific.
what chapter? What
Oh,
chapter?
I don't know the chapters. I just know the sections. It's section 151.
I think 151 is in chapter 9.
Did you say chapter 9 or section 9?
I said chapter 9. I'm
Oh,
sure it's in
okay,
chapter
then you're
9.
right. I thought you said section 9.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, then you're
No,
right.
chapter 9.
Section 151 in
Thank
chapter 9.
you.
And that's if the child is
Yes.
in need of care, if there's a belief that any delay would harm the child, and
Yes.
a child can be removed without a court order if it's done by a social worker or a police official. So you cannot have any
Yes.
Tom, Dick, and Harry just coming in to remove a child using section 151. It needs to be done either by a social worker or a police. Okay, Molefi,
Yes.
Yes.
your question is, in short, how should the social worker balance Lerato's rights versus the risk to the child?
All right. First and foremost, social worker must check on the rights of the parents. That's number one.
Okay.
Because Lerato is still a mother to this child, even though the circumstances made her to find herself in the drugs, and the child born with a neonatal problems or challenges. So now the social worker must be ethical. Number one. Number two, social worker don't have to judge this Lerato woman. And what social worker has to do is to make Lerato aware that about the situation in which she is, and to Lerato must accept that she's having a problem of the drugs and so on. And once Lerato can accept that, it's going to be easy for the social worker to check what the problem, what could be the problem that Lerato found himself being in drugs, so that Lerato can be assisted. And as a result of that, should Lerato being aware that she's having a problem and so on, now the social worker, we will have to make sure that she handles the case with care, and to make Lerato that aware that she needs to be taken care of, she needs to be hospitalized, or maybe to send to an organization that can assist her to clean her system. And at the other hand, what is important is the rise of this newborn baby that need to be taken care of. The child must also be receive a treatment, be it in the hospital, and immediately after that, maybe if Lerato could be sent to a home, whereby or to a rehabilitation center, maybe the child can accompany their mother, because because we cannot separate their child and their mother at the same time. Because what needs to be done is at that moment, I don't think Lerato is a threat to a child. Only if she will understand and accept that she's having a problem and she needs to be assisted, then she won't be a threat or a high risk to the child. And now that, because we also indicated that Lerato was a person who was staying with friends, today she's staying with these other ones, and tomorrow she's staying with the other people. Now, what is important is maybe she can, immediately after she has received the treatment, she can also be referred to a home whereby Lerato and the child can be kept safely. And because we know that when they are at the home, they won't be alone. There will be a support system, there will be social workers, there will be support groups, and so on. So as a result of that, I think she'll be able to overcome the problem of the drugs. I think maybe I've managed to answer the question.
Perfect. I just want to take it one step back with you. Let's break it up into two categories. So firstly, what rights does Lerato have?
Lerato has rights to the child, 100% rights, because she's the mother. And as a result of that, I don't think we, at this stage, will have to separate Lerato from the child.
Okay, then
As a
what
mother,
rights
yes.
what rights does the child have?
The child also has a right, because the child cannot speak for him or herself. So now the social workers has to intervene. The social worker has to come in between. They should be impartial, and then they have to give empathy in this situation because of this child.
Yeah, so this is a tricky situation because on the one hand we have Lerato she has full parental rights and responsibilities. She has
Yes,
the right to be in contact with the child, to make decisions about the child as well.
yes,
And on the other hand, we have the child who also has the right to be protected from neglect, abuse, or any type of harm. So how does it change now? Because remember I said in the scenario, I said that Lerato did indicate some desire to improve. Some days she's like, I really want to be a better mom. Other days she's like, I can't do this. How would you as a social worker deal with that situation?
is to give support, to provide counseling to Lerato, because she'll need that counseling at the end of the day, and again to give support to both the mother and the child. Because remember, once we as a social worker, I will say, let us remove this child from you for a time because of the situation. Lerato's condition might deteriorate because today she wants to become better. Tomorrow she's going back. As a result of that, she'll end up going full time back to the drugs. So by removing the child automatically from her or detaching the child automatically from her, that means that there's no room for it. There won't be any room for improvement, because now she's going to start having stress, she'll be depressed, and now she's going to be a danger to the child at the same time.
Perfect. So we're also looking there, like you mentioned, it's the issue of family preservation, basically.
Yes,
And that is something that we hold very highly in South African law as well, to preserve the family unit. And as much
yes,
as Lerato is a drug user, but the fact that she has indicated a willingness to change, the social worker should consider that in view of preserving the family unit and giving the mother a
yes,
chance. That is very important for
yes.
us. But there are limits to that. What are the limits to that?
There are limits to that, yes. The
Yes.
limits to that is that if the Lerato cannot prove herself that she's eager to change, and the social worker is aware that no, we are playing games, say we have Lerato, then I think it is then whereby the social worker can come up with recommendations and to say let the child be removed temporarily from Lerato, and maybe the child can be given one of the family members of Lerato, because what is important, to remove the child completely from the family, it won't be correct, because Lerato at the end of the day, hence I've indicated, once we do that, her condition is going to deteriorate. But once we make a social worker make sure that she looks at the side of Lerato's family, people who will be able to take care of the child, people who will be able to give Lerato a support, people will encourage Lerato every now and then to say, go and take your treatment so that you can be clean. So yes, I think in that case, that the social worker can win this case and to preserve their family.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Molefi. Jackie, do you have any comments to add on to what Molefi has said?
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult balance. I would, I would prioritize the needs of the child over the needs of the mother, because the child is helpless. And so I would not put the child at risk in the hope that Lerato is going to change, because unfortunately, the relapse rate of drug addicts is very, very high, and it's highly unlikely that if she's a current drug addict, it is highly unlikely, I think, that she'll be able to make a good go of care of the child. I think putting the child with family, if there is family, is a fantastic idea. But I would remove the child immediately I don't think removing the child would necessarily be bad for Lerato. I think that provides what's the word, like incentive to actually go and get clean. So you remove the child with the thing of, you may have visitation rights, you may do all that, supervised visitation, all those kind of things. But until you have proven yourself to be clean, we have to protect the child from a drug addicted mother. And so, so I would prioritize the child's right over the mother's right, simply because the child is helpless, whereas the mother is not helpless. She's actually got choices that she can make. And because drugs are make people very erratic and very untrustworthy, I would, and she's already proven to not care for the child while the child was in the womb. She's already proven herself to be neglectful. So I would remove the child and allow her to earn the right to have the child back, because she has already damaged the child. That's just my opinion.
Okay, perfect. So I'm glad that we're all on the same page that you should preserve the family unit, but it does come with terms and conditions. And that would mostly be if the child is placed in harm again, and then other options can be considered, such as foster care or adoption or anything like that. But I think temporary removal of the child would suffice in this circumstance in order to treat the mother, or to create an intervention plan, so to speak,
Yeah.
to assist the mother as much as a social worker possibly can in her getting back on her feet, and then really looking at care and contact of the child, perhaps starting off with small doses and taking it from there based on the mother's improvement, and always considering the risk, the harm of the child. I think that is first and foremost. As soon as the child gets harmed or is placed again in a harmful situation, and then the child has the right to be removed.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any other comments?
No, on my side, no.
I'm good.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. This was a lovely class. I enjoyed the case studies. Nick should be back for the next class. If not, and then get ready for more case studies because that's all that I do.
Yeah, very interesting anyway.
No, but they're really helpful. Yeah, they're
I,
very,
I
very
think
helpful because they
learning
actually make
it's
us
I think it's
practically
better
look.
to learn like through case studies. Honestly, I think that's the
Yes.
best.
Yeah,
way.
Mm.
All right, thank you very
because
much.
they're real and they're the kind of things that we're actually going to face. So
Yes,
it is very, very
exactly.
helpful.
I mean, the theory is great, but when you come across a real life situation like this, it's a very different
Yeah.
story. Yeah. All right, thank you so much, everyone, and then I'll
Thank
see
you. Good night.
Good night.
Cool beans. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.